Hi, I'm excited about math. Okay, so we're 5 other people here. No, really, I speak math. Anybody here speak math? Who speaks math? That's great. Good, then you'll know what I'm talking about. The rest of you, try to keep up. Math has taught me everything I know about the universe and everything I know about things in the universe, like coffee. I love coffee. And today, I want to express the importance of the mathematics of your life. You know, math taught me how to do a number of things here. Math taught me how to add and subtract and multiply and divide. And in the language of math, that would be called arithmetic. So add, subtract, multiply, divide, and really, that is the basic language that we start with. But the language of math really has 5 realms. It has arithmetic, it has geometry, it has trigonometry, and it has the dreaded calculus. Yeah, right. Let's hear that again, the dreaded calculus. Well, the funny thing about math also is in the middle of all that, the important language that you're probably learning right now is called algebra. And algebra changes numbers into variables. Thank you. And when we start understanding how numbers and variables relate to each other, we start understanding fundamental parts of the universe. Things like the water cycle. Anybody know how to make coffee? Know how to make coffee? Right? You got to boil water, right? You got to change its phase from liquid to gas and then do something to it, like adding ground roasted beans to make something that tastes like burnt water. It's all part of what we would call the water cycle. And there are things that happen during that water cycle. Things that change the geometry of the space that that water takes up. And there are the occasions that at the end of the water cycle, you could end up with something that is wholly different from the coffee that you started with. And what scientists, let's say doctors, who wants to be a doctor? Doctors in the room. You take things like samples, and you take these samples and you do scientific studies of them. And those scientific studies are based on things like geometry, right? I know how much volume this takes up, and I need to understand different properties in there and chemical properties, and I need to know a lot of algebra to be able to do that. Yeah, you need to really study all the elements, like the sense of smell. There are algebraic equations associated with the sense receptors in your nose, and the sense of taste, and how that's linked to everything else. No, really, this is a scientific experiment. It's apple juice. I was completely kidding. And you can't turn coffee into apple juice. It just doesn't happen. But you can change other equations in your life, and you can do that using things like, I don't know, geometry to define how the universe is expanding or contracting, right? Or you can just entertain yourself with things like geometry and trigonometry. And see, now you guys are in 3D. When you start looking at all the different things in your lives, you start realizing that there is also calculus in your life. And I'm going to give you the simple elements of calculus here. The first bit of calculus is differentiation. Differentiation. And I'm going to make it real simple. All of you actually speak this language of calculus right now. Differentiation starts with some variable u. Let's call that x. So everybody's an x. And everybody was born, or most people were born with 2 arms. So let's call that x to the power of 2. So hold out your arms and shake hands with the person next to you. Right there. That connection that you just made, the derivative of what you have done gives you 2x. You can connect with two other people. So the derivative of x squared, what's physically happening right now, that's the derivative in any given plane, is 2x. You can always connect with two people. That's what your two arms are for. Integration, on the other hand, does something a little different. I'll need you to stand up to do this. So those two hands, keep holding hands with the person you shook hands with, at least two people there. Now hold your hands high in the air, okay? The area, and you can spread out if you need to, the area that is under your arms, if you're connected with two people each, let's just call that whole area 4x, okay? And you guys can sit down now. But keep holding hands, keep holding hands. See, as you sat down, that area changed, and as the area under a curve changes, you have what's called the integral, that area under a curve. And that area is defined when I take 4x and I integrate it. I have two people that I'm connected with, so 2 times x squared, that's you and your power of two hands, right? 2x squared plus some constant. Now, those of you who know the language I'm talking about, calculus here, you're amazed, right? Some constant. What is the constant? The constant's u, but it's different for every equation. It's different for every connection that you're making. We're going to call that constant c. That constant is uniquely you, and there's an equation that's happening right now in your lives as people are influencing you. They're telling you to study this, or think about going to school with this, or try to get this job here. And all of those influences are these connections that are integrating over time. And as you start thinking about these situations, you want to put yourself in a position where you understand the variables that are affecting you, the connections with those people who are making recommendations. Let's say somebody recommends to go to college. Think about the math. You're spending 4 years to get about 140 credit hours, and you're going to spend at least $40,000 or incur $40,000 in student loan on average, and then you'll exit and get a job somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000 a year, and you'll pay that back over time, and by the time you're my age, you might pay off your student loans. Other career paths could be in the military or could be in the skilled trades. If you get an apprenticeship and spend 4 years in an apprenticeship and get about 60 credit hours of schooling, which gets you close to an associate's degree, you could end up making about the same amount as a college graduate in the end, but you would have been making money for 4 years and not been in debt. Those equations are being built and integrated into your life right now. But there's still one thing that remains constant, one thing that makes the biggest impact on the equations that are in your lives, the math that you speak every day without even knowing it, and that constant is you. Thank you very much.